the boss of bosses, the boss of all bosses. To switch subjects, Carmine Galante. He was the protege of Vito Genovese and Joe Bonanno, mob figure right here in New York City. Died by shooting while having lunch in Brooklyn. Did you do the original autopsy on his body, or were you called in to do the autopsy after the fact? And if so, why?
Well, no. He was one of the heads of the five families, mafia families, that in the 1970s that controlled a lot of crime in New York. And he was at lunch. He had made his mark in one of the mafia families by bringing in a lot of heroin from Canada into New York City. So the mafia made a lot of money on the heroin trade, and he was shot while at lunch in Brooklyn. And it was interesting because he was there with about five people. Two of the guards who were supposed to protect him were not shot by the people who came into the restaurant, killed Galante plus the two other people. And those two other people apparently were in on the shooting. Of Galante. There was a photograph of him with the cigar still in his mouth.
Correct.
As I recall, which I saved for the museum. We had the cigar in the New York City Medical Examiner's Museum at the time, which is closed down now. But what happened was the medical examiner from Brooklyn would handle the case, and I came down there to make, at the time of the autopsy, to make sure that there were no problems with the case. But it was handled by the Brooklyn medical examiner.
Okay, when you say no problems with the case, because cases like that, it seems pretty open and shut to me. You know, he's having lunch and he was shot. There's no dispute there.
Right. Yeah, what was happened, though, you're absolutely right. There's no dispute, but it got a lot of publicity immediately. So in the shooting cases, as there was a shotgun and I think two handguns, the issues in those cases, like with Malcolm X, which I was around for, came in for, the number of we had to make sure that all the bullets are recovered, because the bullet that's left behind could be the bullet from an additional weapon that wasn't known. In the shooting cases, the bullets are important because that tells you what weapon it came from, and then the police are able to hook up the weapon to the person who did the shooting, and is an important part of the district attorney's case, even though, as you say, the cause of death is pretty obvious. The cause of death immediately is obvious with shooting. The cause of death isn't obvious with the restraint deaths, with the people who die because they can't breathe. Because, Shawn, one of the things about the dying from inability to breathe, from compression, just compression of the neck, compression of the back, is it doesn't leave any marks on the body. Often there aren't any marks on the body to show you that there was a knee on the back, for example, and he couldn't breathe. And that's why it's important to know that the autopsy starts at the scene of death. The scene of death in the Floyd case tells you what was happening in the restraint, and the visuals, the photographs that were taken document the scene. The autopsy doesn't show any. By the time you go to autopsies, there's no chest compression anymore. There's not even any neck compression anymore. There was a little hemorrhage in the neck that we found at the second autopsy, but in general, cutting off breathing by pressing on the back, which is what happens during handcuffing a person who's resisting, doesn't show up at the autopsy, but it does show up at the photographs, the scene photo. That's why the videos are so important in these cases. And with the Nichols matter, there was a photograph, a video. Tyree's was seeing what happened to him from a poll video. The Memphis police had poll videos in addition to the body cams. The body cam of Tyre Nichols being beaten up don't show very much because they're very close. But the poll video, which is unusual, it shows the whole scene and shows how he was being kicked or punched and kicked, which doesn't show up on the body cams. And even though body cams are helpful, often, as with Tyre, some of the officers don't put them on. They got to put them on to work. And so you don't get all the officers who were involved. And one of the things we should learn from the Tyre Nichols is that videos higher up that get a broader look at what was going on became much more important in showing the amount of the way he was beaten up.